Welcome back to Trinidad and Tobago. We're continuing our conversations about fuel in Trinidad and Tobago and sustainability. Now, the CNG initiative was commenced almost 2 administrations ago under then Prime Minister Patrick Manning, talking about the environment and environmental sustainability. From then till now, successive administrations have not just offered incentives, subsidies, but they've done all that they can in an attempt to move forward with this. Has it been a successful initiative? Well, joining us on the Morning Brew this time, Curtis Mohammed and Roger Sant. Curtis Mohammed is the president of NGC CNG, Roger Sant, communications manager attached to this initiative. Good morning. How are you both?
Good morning, Hema. Morning.
Now, Ms. Mohammed, let me start with you. There's been a lot of statements about the success rate of this. Has the CNG initiative been successful in this country?
I will start off by saying, yes, it's been here a while. It did not progress in the early years as well as it should have. We have been operating in a very subsidized environment, Trinidad and Tobago. It's only with the recent adjustments in pricing, going where they have to go, that the reality of what your fuel choices could be is showing up. So in 2013, a directive was taken by Cabinet to say, okay, this subsidy issue is a big issue with liquid fuels. Let's introduce CNG. CNG is also cleaner. It's the cleanest fossil fuel that we have. It also can be the lowest price, and it can be the lowest price without a subsidy. Okay, so let's add this into the mix. So Cabinet, therefore, instructed the NGC to create a company and make this happen. The budget for this company was $500 million for the entire program. We're hearing some figures being bandied about. They are incorrect, and they've been propagated, unfortunately. It is not $2 billion. It is a $500 million program associated with about 22 CNG stations, and we're now up to about 18, all right? And it's a target of initial quantum of vehicles, about 17,500. That's the basic component of it.
And that was given, that mandate was given in 2013?
In 2013, the company was created in 2014 and operationalized from 2015 going forward. Now, part of that program would be, and before I say that, so right now we're actually about a little past half the amount of vehicles, and we're up to about 18 stations, either completed or in advanced stages of construction. Over the last 2 years, the CNG volume has been increasing. The sales at the pump has been increasing at an average of 11% per month, not per annum, per month. It has been doubling every single year. At the current trajectory, we expect that in about 2024, 2025, we should be close to about 7, maybe between 7 and 10% of the total sales volume in Trinidad and Tobago. And that's why we've partnered with the station operators like NP and Unipet, because we know as there's a transition away, just because of price differential, as there's a transition away from liquid fuels, they are supposed to benefit from the CNG margins. Of course, it's public information now that the CNG margin is now embroiled with the entire margin issues with everyone else.
Now
but it is successful so far.
You've identified in 2013, you were talking about 17,022 stations. What was your time period to do that? 5 years as a medium?
It was about 5 years, yes.
Okay, so from 2013 to now, so we look at about 6 years on, right?
2014 is when the company was created.
Okay, so 5 years on, so you say that you're 3/4 ways to your target. Why do you think consumers, if I listen to the statistics, you're saying that's 11% increase per month.
Yeah.
Is that correlated with a number of or is it attached to more persons accepting this or making the conversion kits, or is it the same amount of vehicles? Because they're banding about the figure 7,000. Only 7,000, 8,000 vehicles are converted to CNG.
No, it's
over 8,000.
Yeah, it is.
And increasing on average about 250 vehicles per month. So we have on average about 200 conversions every month, Hema, and 50 or so OEM vehicles, which is the original equipment manufactured vehicles. Those could be sedans, maxis, commercial vehicles. So we're adding approximately 250 vehicles per month to the network. And as more stations are opened, we recently opened the NP El Socorro station. Right. CNG is being dispensed there. We find people who already have CNG in their vehicle, they will use more of it now because there's greater accessibility. So the usage of CNG, because you can use CNG or liquid fuel in your vehicle, the usage of CNG is going increasing.
So this is now attached to, as you rightly said, the entire debacle between the margins, the government, and everyone else. The dealers are saying that it's not profitable to them and that they no longer want to continue carrying. Is that a sentiment being expressed to you?
Yes, it has been. We have actually met with the regulator to offer some perspectives as they decide how to go forward. Minister would have indicated before that they'll be addressing the entire issue very soon. So they did receive our input, suggestions, several options that could go forward. But the reality is the smaller stations, unfortunately, they need to have passed a certain threshold of sales to cover certain margins. To assist them, we actually, at every station that is opened, after about a month of operation and we tune the equipment and so on, we normally offer NLCB-approved raffles for members of the public, up to about 100 of them, to get conversions. What that does actually, that drives sales of the order of about maybe 20,000 to 40,000 liters of sales per month.
Mr. We have to go straight to the 7 o'clock newscast. When we come back, we're going to pick up on that issue of sales and moving forward the CNG initiative. Welcome back, Trinidad and Tobago. In 2014, an initiative, government then took a policy decision that they are going to place emphasis and a sustained emphasis and focus on the conversion of the country to CNG, or accepting CNG as a viable option for fuel and fuel alternatives. Now, you know, Mr. Mohammed, we're talking about the success rate of this, and you said, okay, you admitted in the beginning, maybe it was not as successful. Our viewers continue to say, Hema, 8,000 CNG vehicles, and you have approximately 1 million cars on the road. How can they claim that has been any level of success?
Well, there's a matter of capacity. So, and even the minister mentioned it. You build stations and then you convert. Or do you convert and then build stations? We've been trying to do it together, and we have been doing it together. Quite frankly, I think our stations right now will cater for almost about 20 or 30,000 existing customers to fill that CNG station out. We have close to about 8,000, but a little over 8,000 customers right now being added at an aggressive rate. To be able to get the rates of conversion up, this is what we've had to do. We've had to train via the National Energy Skills Center 130 persons, young persons. They are trained to do CNG, trained to maintain. We even put in, gave some assistance and some directions and some support actually with respect to apprenticeship programs now, where you actually go, you're trained to do, you become a converter, you go and you have a 6-month attachment. At the end of the attachment, you're assessed. So we are creating an industry together with meeting certain targets. That's part of what we do. That's part of what we have to do. And at the end of all of this, 22 stations will satisfy approximately 40,000 CNG vehicles in Trinidad and Tobago, for people who might have been supported in conversion and people who go in willingly. Right now, the market is approximately self-motivated. About 20% of the market will actually be the ones that are purchasing their own vehicles or converting, and the others are targeted. Why they are targeted? Taxi drivers and members of the public, most people say they can't afford $12,000 or even $13,000 for a conversion. Even though it's saving some of them $3,000 a month in the fuel bill. A taxi driver is spending $4,000 a month on liquid fuel, now spending about $1,000, $1,200 on CNG. And it's still, for them, it's difficult. They can't get a loan. They can't get access to funding to do conversions. So we've offered targeted conversions. We make our money back. Our money back is made in the sales of CNG, in the sales of the CNG service. So we cannot overheat the market. We could do it more aggressively. Our budget was $500 million, of which maybe $300 million would have been associated with targeted improvements. We've only spent $25 million on conversions. That's why the rate is small. We can make it more aggressive, but we don't want to overheat the market.
Ms. Santino, there are legacy issues with CNG. Up, down, left, right. People talk about unreliable, the long lines at the station. These are things that when the initiative was first pushed back by the Manning administration, people thought, there are 1 or 2 stations, where we're going to get. So you're battling that perception. How successful have you been to convince people like myself who grew up in that time with that conversation?
Right, so you hit an important point there. CNG was introduced in Trinidad and Tobago back in the 80s, and with some measure of success, but then it started to decline because the station started to shut down and wasn't properly maintained, and we had issues of long lines and taking a long time to fill. So part of what this company had to do when it started in 2014 was to try and go back and erase some of those issues and assure the public that we are putting brand new equipment in place, fast fill equipment, so it will take you no more than about 3 minutes to fill your vehicle, and convince some people, because as you said, people who are adults now would have seen their parents go through that and didn't want to have to go through that. So yes, we have some legacy issues to deal with, and we have, I think, broken the back of that, and we've gotten to a point now where we don't have to tell anybody what CNG is anymore. They all know about it. They know the economic benefit of it, and also the environmental benefit. And that's something that we could never forget. We are being more and more environmentally conscious, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but globally. And CNG, using CNG, you cut your emissions by approximately 30%. And that is a great way of each person playing their individual role in helping save the environment.
And it's about sustainability. Mr. Mohammed, this current impasse between the dealers and the government, are you fearful that all your good work will be eroded? And that CNG is now going to be lumped into an unreliable conversation?
No, it's very unfortunate development. We know that. We are confident that there will be resolution very quickly. The regulator is working on it. They've taken on board some of our inputs. And I think we heard from Robin and his team. They found themselves in a very difficult situation. They've expressed that on the CNG end. We can't speak too much for the liquid fuel, and let's leave that way it is. The conversation there is there with someone else. This is not something that cannot be corrected. We're going to leave it like that.
Now, looking at and this is about responding to all of these statements that have been out in the public domain, there's also a concern that CNG may not be the latest technology, that you have the hybrid vehicles, you have models which are more efficient in terms of consumer satisfaction and consumer convenience.
All right, and I'll answer very simply by saying there really have two types of consumers in Trinidad and Tobago, generally two types. One that would normally buy a new vehicle, and one that will not buy a new vehicle. Now, the majority of vehicles coming in Trinidad today, there's approximately, at last count, 25,000 vehicles that come in every year. The majority of those vehicles, a significant proportion now is hybrid and electrics. According to the automotive dealers, about 5% of those vehicles are also now CNG. There's space for all the technologies. But that market is not the majority of the market. Our market actually is every single internal combustion engine in Trinidad and Tobago. There's 1 million vehicles. That 1 million vehicles is going to be here for a very long time. The CNG prospect is not only for new vehicles, hybrids and electric. They have fantastic options. They have some CNG options. We have people who are bringing in trucks and commercial vehicles, 100% CNG, no alternative other fuels. That market is spoken for in a particular way. Even UPS, for example, right, just about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, earlier this month, they said that they are investing $450 million into 6,000 natural gas-powered trucks for their deliveries in the U.S.
Now, this is in a progressive environment. This is in a first world country. This is a company that is known to be the top of the logistics chain, investing in natural gas vehicles. So how could this be backward? We also have 1 million vehicles. That 1 million vehicles there, our target market ultimately might be 100,000 vehicles. Why? It's a sort of an index that we know, and we got to satisfy with a certain amount of stations. If the market wants to go more than that, it'll go more than that. But for now, our mandate has been 17,500. We expect to go more than that by 2024.
Now, Robin and his dealers, they have said there was a huge headline about a week ago. I know the minister has said that they are dealing with this. Now, what is the conversation going to be like for the next month in relation to CNG, the dealers, and the distribution of supply? Because one of the questions consumers are asking is whether or not I am going to get my CNG fuel, particularly in South Trinidad. Either one of you can take it.
Well, just to clear up one misconception, because people were calling us in the last week, there's no CNG shortage, right? We did have a situation in South at the Monrepo station where the equipment was down and some maintenance had to be done, and there were some operational issues as well at that location, and we had to put in a temporary supply at a nearby station on Rushwood Street. So everything is back fully functioning there, and we don't have any issues with respect to that station. South Trinidad has been a part of the country where we are looking for more existing stations or new stations to put CNG supply in. It has been a challenge. If you look at Trinidad and Tobago, most of the new stations are being built east, west, and central.
Yeah.
Not as many in South Trinidad, and that could be for various reasons. And the model of NGC CNG has been to partner with the fuel marketers, NP and Unipet, and to install the equipment in there, the CNG equipment, in existing stations or new stations. And that has been the challenge in South Trinidad, but we are actively working towards upgrading Point Fortin, having more discussions with a couple other stations in South Trinidad to boost the supply of CNG for our southern customers.
Ideally, so the next emphasis would be on the southern customers right now.
Yes.
How many stations do you have in South? Just 2 right now?
We have one fully functioning, one with mobile temporary supply, and the other one, which is Point Fortin, work has started to remove the old equipment that was there for approximately 30 years and install our new equipment that's already been procured. And it's a matter of installing that, and we expect at about maybe first quarter 2020 to have that station back up and running.
So as represents your closing comments to consumers, you know, we talk about sustainability and environmentally conscious consumers. The world is changing. We saw even yesterday with the impact of water rising in Cedros. So climate change is a reality. CNG is a choice. You've spoken about the economic benefits. The environmental benefits are also there. But to many, there's still a level of hesitation about accepting this. Your closing comments.
All right, okay. I'll close by saying something that actually needs to be said. We embrace all the technologies, even so much so, it should be common knowledge that we, together with NP, constructing our pre-sale station, which will be one of the largest stations in Trinidad. It's going to be 20 lanes wide, 50% CNG, 50% liquid fuels. But we're also going to have a solar canopy. Now, it's the first station in Trinidad that's going to have a solar canopy that's going to be dedicated to charging plug-in vehicles. It is going to be ultra-fast charge electric vehicles can be charged at our station. Now, we are the CNG company, and we are installing something for the plug-ins. We view natural gas power to charge an electric vehicle very differently than we view solar power to charge an electric vehicle. That is sustainable. That is proper. That is socially conscious. All right?
Well, that definitely made me smile this morning because I am trying to be more socially conscious. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for clearing up some of the issues. And when we come back, we'll tell you what the gas stations look like in Port of Spain this morning with Crystal James and a crew out there at Richmond Street. And also, they'll be making a trek down to Rice and Road as well to find out whether or not consumers are still rushing to the pump. Stay with us. There's so much more. Also, we'll tell you about some trending vehicles. And did you notice that there's another Chinatown sign? We're going to tell you a little bit about that. Stay with us.